Today, we are diving into the Grey Lodge Occult Review, and we're going on a bit of a journey through some really strange but interconnected ideas. It all comes down to a pretty fundamental question. Is the reality we experience something we build ourselves, or is it a kind of program, maybe one designed to control us? We're going to go from ancient philosophy to memory techniques, all the way to viral languages, to try and understand how the symbols all around us might be shaping our world in ways we don't even realize.
And we have to start right here with this quote from the philosopher Alfred Korzybski, because it is the key to everything else we're about to explore. We shall always be ruled by those who rule symbols. Just let that sink in for a second. This one idea, that language isn't just for describing things, but that it actually creates things, that's our foundation.
Now, before we get into the really weird stuff, and trust me, it gets weird, we have to get a solid grip on this first concept. Korzybski's whole argument is that our reality is quite literally built out of symbols. Words aren't just little labels we stick on things, They're the actual architecture of how we perceive everything.
So what does that actually look like? Well, Korzybski gave this perfect example. Imagine two people arguing about whether there are matches in a box. That's a problem we can solve, right? You just open the box and look. The word matches points to a real object in the world. But now, what if they're arguing about whether blah blah is a case of tra-tra? That debate is impossible. It can't go anywhere. Why? Because those words are just noises. They aren't connected to anything real. So one argument builds on reality, while the other just creates noise and confusion.
Okay, so that leads us to the next logical question. If our world is really made of these symbols, then the systems we use to organize all of them suddenly become incredibly important. How do we actually structure knowledge itself? And this brings us to a really ancient solution. The arts of memory. This is a technique based on a simple fact about our brains. Our spatial memory is way, way more powerful than our ability to just memorize a list. So instead of trying to cram facts into your head, you build a memory palace in your mind, and you place the information you need to remember inside its rooms. And this technique has an amazing history. We're talking way back in ancient Rome, where orators like Cicero would use it to memorize these epic, hours-long speeches. Then, fast forward to the medieval era, and it becomes a tool for theology, a way to organize super complex ideas about virtues and vices. By the time we get to the Renaissance, the whole idea gets so ambitious that people start designing actual physical memory theaters to act as real-world models of these huge mental structures.
But the ambition behind these systems, it went way beyond just remembering things. The ultimate goal, the Holy Grail, was to build a mental structure so perfectly organized and so vast that it couldn't just hold a speech, it could hold the entire cosmos.
These medieval diagrams of hell and paradise are the perfect example of this in action. I mean, look at them. They weren't just maps of the afterlife, they were incredibly complex mnemonic devices. Every single level, every circle, was a locus, a mental spot to store specific information about sins or virtues or angels or demons. It was a complete worldview, all structured for perfect, instant recall. So let's recap. We've seen how symbols can literally build a reality and how complex systems can be designed to organize that reality. Now we're going to take a sharp turn. This is where we see those same tools being used to describe a secret history of the world, one that's hidden just under the surface of our own. And this brings us to a writer named George Hunt Williamson, who took these ideas and just ran with them, proposing this really radical hidden history. At the very center of his story was an ancient, almost godlike group he called the El Race. And according to him, they colonized Earth about 1 billion years ago.
And what was their mission? What was their ultimate goal? Well, it was nothing less than total mastery over reality itself. Williamson called this the conquest of Mest. That's matter, energy, space, and time. Their whole purpose was to break the chains of physical existence and become immortal.
To tell this story, Williamson starts deconstructing our language, kind of like Korzybski, but for way more mystical reasons. Here, he breaks down the word life into what he saw as its core symbolic parts. You've got a vertical line, which is the first cause, an L shape for extension, and then a circle for infinity. It's like a secret language hidden in plain sight inside our own. He even builds these wild, esoteric equations out of these symbols. In this one, that same symbolic language is used to create a roadmap for spiritual evolution. You start with the first cause, or beasthood.
You move through the extension of angelhood, and you arrive at the infinity of Christhood. And the sum of that whole journey is theta, this transcendent state of being. It's an entire spiritual history, all told through a single symbolic formula.
Okay, so we've talked about symbols that build reality, and we've talked about systems that chart hidden realities. But what if reality itself is actually a hostile program? What if language isn't just a tool, but a weapon? This is where we go completely down the rabbit hole. And that rabbit hole leads us directly to our final figure, the writer William S. Burroughs. For Burroughs, all these ideas about symbols and control systems, they weren't just abstract theories. For him, they were the actual weapons being used in a cosmic war for the human mind. In the totally paranoid universe that Burroughs created, reality itself is under attack. But this isn't your typical invasion with spaceships and ray guns. No. As he puts it, it's a takeover of the souls, a silent, psychic infiltration that's happening at the most fundamental level of our language and thought. And this is his most terrifying concept of all, the word virus. Burroughs proposed that human language isn't some tool that we invented. He said it was a parasite that infected us a long, long time ago. It dictates our thoughts, it shapes our desires, it constructs our very sense of who we are. From his point of view, your thoughts are not your own. They are symptoms of an alien virus. In this virus, it has agents, a whole menagerie of cosmic horrors. You've got death dwarfs and sex dwarfs, crab guards powered by pain, and it's all being orchestrated by something called the alien insect brain of Minarod and its technicians, along with the Venusians. It's a vision of total, absolute psychic warfare. The ultimate weapon in this whole psychic war is what Burroughs calls the control machine. He tells a story about an ancient Mayan civilization where the priests control the entire population with pre-recorded sounds and images. They project a false reality onto the workers, so the workers only see and feel what the machine allows them to. For them, reality is just an old film playing on an endless loop. So that's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? How do you fight back? If your own thoughts are infected by a virus, and the world you see is just a pre-recorded film, how in the world do you break free? Well, Burroughs offers a way out. He borrows this phrase from the historical figure Hassan-i-Sabbah, the old man of the mountain. And the very first step is a radical act of rebellion. You have to fully accept that the reality being presented to you is a complete fabrication. It has no real authority. Nothing is true. And if nothing is true, well, then everything is permitted. This becomes the ultimate weapon. If reality is just a film, then you can learn to cut it up. You can rearrange the scenes. You can splice in new information. You can seize control of the symbols yourself and start writing your own script. Which leaves us with one last, pretty unsettling question. We started this journey with Korzybski, who showed us how symbols build our world. We saw how ancient thinkers tried to map the entire cosmos in their own minds. And we ended with Burroughs, who warned us that language itself might be a virus from outer space. It all points to the same conclusion. Our reality is a story, told with words and with images. And the only question left to ask is, if your reality is a film, who's in the control room?